Hello everyone, so this will be a quick tutorial on how you can paint gold. I'm going to show you how I painted this and I'll go ahead and do a gold painting demonstration. I'm using Affinity Designer, so let's jump in. So first let's have a breakdown. The best way to start is to use a reference, and I got this reference from Pinterest, so I'll just drag my layers over to the side. You can see how it looks like. A very nice tutorial on how you can paint gold. I didn't really do justice to that tutorial, but I just wanted to create something of my own and then paint that instead of just copying whatever I find online, which is a good exercise, by the way. So just search for any good gold tutorial on Pinterest and you should be good to go. So the first thing I began was create a nice little sketch. I'll just turn off this layer. I believe this one as well. And you can see a very basic sketch of the symbol I wanted to paint into gold, and I added these flats on top. I'm not adding these ones yet, just these flats. You can see this is just a basic flat color using some of the colors sampled here, and basically these are all the colors I actually use with a slight variation. Added the highlights on top, and that was it. I also cleaned up the sketch. For this group, you can see I've added a little bit of adjustments. So I have these two adjustments, and basically that's what I'm using right now. So I'll just go to this group and group everything together, and let's exclude the pixels. I'll hit Ctrl G just to group that and turn it off. Now let's do a basic demonstration. So I'll create a pixel. I'm using the pixel persona actually. So I'll hit this, create a new pixel, and I'll drag that on top. Hit circle and just create a nice little circular shape. Doesn't have to be something crazy. I'll just drag this selection over here, and what I'll do next is to fill it with a base brown color. So I'll just use the color picker and try something like that. Yeah, I don't think that's bad, so I'll go to the fill tool and hit that. We might even make this slightly neutral like that. So in case you're following along, I'm using 8D5E30, and you can find this on the color wheel. It's just the hex value, so you can type that in just to have the same value we have here. For the brush, I like using a textured brush. And to make sure this window is similar to yours, I'll go to Window and go to Studio and reset the studio. So I've reset that studio right now, and underneath Brushes, I'll just pick a under Gouache. I like using this one. It's a very nice blendy kind of brush. It's called Gentle Grainy Gouache, and make sure we click the paintbrush tool or just press B to have that paintbrush tool as well. So now what I want to do is to find a position where the light source is coming from. So the light is going to be coming from this side. So it simply means we're going to have our darks towards here at this side. That's where our dark is going to be. So it's quite a nice large brush. So I'll just bump that size up a bit. I think that's okay. And I'll use the eyedropper tool to sample that. If you have the color swatch open, it's going to sample any color that you've actually picked. And with that, we'll just start adding this right here. And you can see I need to bump up the flow because I don't want it to be too gradual like that. And you can just see what I'm doing here. I'm building this. Now it's nice to have a selection of colors, so I'll just dial that down a bit. And what I mean by is this: I'm still going to push this towards black and then darken this edge here, right? Just like that. Let me bump up the flow because I'm using a sensitive wacom, just like that. And now let's start adding some of that orangey color. So I'll drag this over here, jump up to where I have orange, and let's start kind of like placing that around here. You can see it's kind of greenish, so I'll just drag up here and start pasting some of that orange like that. So again, I'm just going over there like that, push in some reds. Also have some slight color variation. And I'll go over to this yellow like that and sort of like start brightening this up a little bit. Not too bright, but just giving it a bright session. Now what I'll do is to open up the navigator just to see what we're doing there. Like basically how is this color, you know, kind of like popping up. And towards the center here is where we're going to have some of the most brightest highlights. So I'll just keep adding that, and let's switch our hue. So hue shifting, add that, switch our hue, push it towards the reds like that. See, we have some of that orange. I'll just bring back some of that green. So next is going to be our highlight section. So I'll sample one of the colors I have here, and it's a good thing to have the reference open. So what I'll do is to, let's tear out the layer, and let's have our just our reference back. I'll just open everything and turn off everything and make sure the reference is there so we can see our work and see how we're doing. We're doing great, actually. So good. So what we want to do is to create that super highlight around here. So we'll use this color. So I'll sample this. Oops, sorry, not on that. I'll just undo and make sure I'm here. I'll sample this one, and we'll begin to create our region of highlight. So I'll go back to the brush tool and start just going around here at the top, making the pressure a little bit. I'm adding a little bit of that pressure because I don't want. And what I want you to do is to kind of like start noticing what's happening at the navigator window, because it will give you an indication of, hey, this is what's actually going on there. And I'll begin to make this brush smaller like that, and just pressing, see, slightly pressing, making that smaller, slightly pressing this. And what I'll do is to go fully saturated. Now you can see I'm just moving here, very bright, and what I'm doing is to just slap that color right here. You can see what's happening there. Just slapping that color. And what we're going to do is to use a very saturated value. So I'll just move over towards yellow like that and make this very bright towards white. And we'll just place that here. And we can use white finally, but the white we're going to use will make our brush small, about 84 pixels, and I can actually zoom in here and just place that at the center right there. So all that's left now is for us to just begin adjusting this and making that change. And you can actually see we have a color that's sort of reminiscent of how, you know, a golden object is going to look, super golden. And let's just bring this back, and let's use the move tool. So all that's left is just to see how we can blend these colors together. So you can see, obviously, if you have this on an object, simply the same colors, and we can use an adjustment layer to play around with this. And if we want this to make wanted to make this super smooth, we could actually add some blend in here just to make it smoother using that same brush. Nothing super special. Or we can use the smudge tool and begin kind of like. So I'll set the flow to about, let's use a high flow, and let's bump the strength as well. So that's a bit too much. So let's set the strength to about 25. And you can actually see we're just blending out some of these edges to get rid of some of the texture. And I'm just using that to follow the path. I'm just using that around here as well. And yeah, so that's how you can have fun creating gold. Before we go, what I want to do is to show you some nice little effects you can use to achieve this. And basically, let's say we want to do something like bump out this this color. How to make this really stand out? First, let's group. So I hit Control G. I'm selecting the group, selecting the object, and I press Control G. Now I have that in a group. Next, I'll create an adjustment. So I'll go to levels. So what this is going to do is, since this is a group, it's only going to affect just this golden sphere. And what we can do is begin to make adjustments. So if we wanted to create a dark, kind of like gold, we can have it here. We can play with the white levels. So you can see how, that's looking super brilliant. I'll just make sure we have the navigator around. You can see how this is looking super brilliant. Like that. If we play with the white level, you can see it's looking all burnt out and very bright, like the like reflective metal. And we can also change the output black and do the same thing here. But whatever you do, make sure that we adjust this value. So I'll go to the here and make sure I click on the levels, and then the opacity, I'll just dial it down a bit so you can see before and after. I'll just leave that around 70%. And what we can also do is add recolor. So I'll go over here and hit on recolor. Oops, it's recoloring the whole thing. Don't panic. Just drag it and put it in the group. So this recolor is only in the group and it's looking super red. Don't worry. What we can do is to drag this towards golden yellow. And let's drag the saturation down a bit. And we can do a before and after. I think it's killing the design. It's killing the colors. So let's just drag this down a bit, just slightly. And there you have it. That's how you can have fun creating gold. So let's see what you can come up with.